on the heels of yet another win by Kyle Busch.
Yeah, Kyle Busch has certainly been the dominant driver this season across the board. Yeah, we've had some other drivers jump up there and grab some wins. Of course, Denny Hamlin wins the Daytona 500. Martin Truex Jr. has been on a tear as of late, had an engine issue last week that took him out of contention early on. As you see the 3 winning stickers above Martin Truex Jr.'s Auto Owners Insurance Toyota on your screen right now. Kyle Busch, though, it doesn't matter what you put him in. We could go out to the infield right now on this beautiful sun-drenched Michigan day, find some big wheels out there, and Kyle Busch will probably win a big wheel race too.
I bet he would. I wouldn't bet against him, that's for sure. By the way, he mentioned on your screen, for those of you that may be just now tuning in, we're coming to you one of 2 different ways, either mrn.com, that is the audio coverage that we'll have for you here today. If you can tune in to NASCAR.com, you'll get audio and video, and that is a look right now down the front straightaway here of the 2-mile racetrack we call the Michigan International Speedway. And we're going to dive deep into a lot of different things. Before we do that, why don't we just kind of paint the picture of what's going on here in the garage. Why don't we start with Kim Kuhn. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Jeff. Well, a lot of drivers climbing aboard race cars is what my view is showing right now. Ryan Blaney getting his helmet in. He's going to climb aboard his Menards Ford here shortly. Kurt Busch already locked and loaded, putting his gloves on. You hear that engine fire up. That's Denny Hamlin. This other engine that's just about to fire up right here, Martin Truex Jr. So a lot of action already busy down here in the garage, and I did a quick scan of the radio. Seems like a bunch of teams are asking their drivers, we want to know what these cars are going to do in traffic. Uncertainty on whether or not we'll see a draft like we do at what we consider super speedways. So a lot of questions on the agendas of these teams. Right now, everybody I've walked by in race trim, but perhaps we'll see some qualifying trim at the end of this practice, maybe early in second practice.
Also, boots on the ground in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series garage is from nearby Chicago, Illinois. That's Pete Pistone. Pete, how you doing, pal?
Doing well, Alex. Nice to be here. Jeff, thank you for the nice weather here in Michigan as the native of our broadcast crew. I'll echo what Kim said. Joey Logano was the first one out of his garage stall to get onto pit road, but Joey actually went and talked to some drivers in the garage because, to Kim's point, they want to know what these cars are going to do in traffic. This is only the first practice of the day, so maybe you're not going to be able to get that to happen, but a lot of drivers know that going out there in sort of single file formation is not going to give them as much information as they're going to need when we go into traffic. There goes Alex Bowman out there in his Nationwide Camaro. We also are standing here by Chase Elliott's garage area. Chase climbing into his car. So very warm temperatures right now. The sun is out. The weather is beautiful. The racetrack is slick. So we'll see how they kind of go steady as she goes early on here, guys. But really, lots of urging to let's see what these cars do in a pack with this new rules here the first time out at Michigan International Speedway.
I can't wait, and I know that I'm going to ask you now, and I think to our listeners, listen to Alex's comments now, and we'll try to remember, let's do it again at the end of happy hour, what you think we're going to see, because Alex, before we even put the green flag out, I'll come to you and say, what are we going to see here? And I'm curious to know your answer.
Now, is it what do you want to see, or what are we going to see in the race, or what are we going to see in this practice session?
That's fair.
Because I think we're going to see 2 different things. What I think we're going to see in the race is going to be 3, sometimes 4 wide racing, and I think it's going to be pack-type drafting racing. And I say that because that's what all the drivers were telling me last week at Pocono. That's what they expected to see this weekend. So as far as this practice session, that's to be determined, because each crew chief's got an agenda down there. Some of them want to go out and say, okay, let's make sure the balance of the race car is where it needs to be. We don't need to be in a draft. We need to make sure that the splitter doesn't bang the racetrack. We lose grip with the front tires and go up and cause a big crash. We may see some cars go out in the first 10 minutes or so of this practice by themselves just to make sure the car is where it needs to be. And then I think in the second half of this first practice, I think we're going to see some packs. Now, that being said, I am not the expert by any means. They may go right out with 20 cars, because just about every race car is now out on pit road waiting for the green flag to go in the air.
And as you wrap that up, you kind of gave me where I thought you might be going, which is I don't really know. The great unknown.
Right.
We may see them run 2, 3 wide. We may see them run nose to tail in single file formation. That's, I think, what makes this so interesting today. kind of giving us a peek inside what we might expect come Sunday when we put them under the green flag for the Firekeepers Casino 400. What are you looking at?
Well, most of the time, for the very first practice of the weekend, we'll see 8 or 10 cars get out there and get lined up ready to go out and just get some laps. There are 29 cars already on pit road ready to get on the racetrack. I think based off of just that alone, that's giving us a little foreshadow of what we may see here in practice.
Well, 29, there's 30, there's 31, 32 is making its way out of the garage. Pretty observant guy alongside. His name, Alex Hayden. My name, Jeff Striegel, Pete Pistone, Kim Kuhn. They're in the garage waiting on the green flag. We've got live practice coverage for you in its entirety here today. It's coming up next from Michigan International Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Get your tickets for the Ultimate NASCAR Summer Festival, June 27th through June 30th. Racing, music, and a carnival for the whole family. All at Chicagoland Speedway. And this year, we're kicking off the first annual Barbecue Smokedown with tastings, demos, and barbecue competitions. Get tickets to the Camping World NASCAR Weekend at ChicagolandSpeedway.com.
Since 1942, Freightliner has been an industry innovator, developing trucks renowned for their dependability and efficiency. Whether your job requires a dump truck, a concrete mixer, or a delivery truck, you can count on Freightliner to maximize your productivity. With a wide range of horsepower and torque rating that meet even the most demanding job conditions. Freightliner trucks are built to build your business. Learn more at Freightliner.com. Freightliner. Work smart.
From Michigan International Speedway, this is Cup Series practice.
Up the back straightaway into turn 3 for the final time. Kevin Harvick positions that Ford right to the bottom of the racetrack. One turn away from the checkered flag.
Total domination again for Kevin Harvick and his team. He'll bring that Ford off turn number 4 and take it to victory lane for the 7th time this season. Kevin Harvick has picked up the victory here at the Michigan International Speedway.
Now, back to Jeff Striegel and Alex Hayden.
That was August of a year ago, and at the time it was win number 7 of 2018. Kevin Harvick and the entire organization right now looking for win number 1 of 2019. It has been a dry spell, to say the least. We have a number of cars on the racetrack with different agendas. Some of them on the racetrack and cutting laps. Others, Alex Hayden, getting it dialed in on pit road.
Yeah, they are. They've come right out. Yeah, they set the pit road speed on their digital dashes back at the shop based off the simulation. But simulation is one thing on a computer. It's something totally different when you fire the race car up and then actually go around the track. The driver wants to make sure the pit road speed is where it needs to be on the tachometer. We've seen Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., all of those drivers taking full advantage of coming down, making sure their pit road speed's where it needs to be before they do anything else out there on the racetrack. Kyle Busch, he's clicked off a few laps. He's already gone back to the garage area, back to Adam Stevens and the crew. As we look up off turn number 4, Jeff, there's some pretty good drivers getting after it here, trying to figure out what their cars have got here in the draft.
Why don't we call them all 4 across the line and back to turn number 1. Right there on your screen, Bubba Wallace taking his car a little higher up the racetrack. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Matt Tifft, they're working now off turn number 2 and out onto the long back straightaway. All right, there's a thought for you real quick. Track record here. Everybody remember that from 2014? Jeff Gordon on that qualifying day went 2:06.5. We're not quite there yet, Alex.
No, 186 and some change is where we're at with the fastest single lap speed. That's set by Kurt Busch a moment ago, but there was nobody was expecting to remotely be close to what the track record currently is, simply because the horsepower is not what it used to be. The aerodynamics are completely different from what it used to be. There's far more drag on the race cars. So, yeah, realistically, if you came and tuned in expecting to hear these dazzling single lap speeds, they're not going to get there. What you're going to have is dazzling side-by-side racing.
I like it. I like it a lot. Why don't we, you know what? That's a great segue into why don't we go back before we go forward. Let's go back a year when we were running 205 miles an hour and we had 20 cars running laps over 200. Okay, forget that. It doesn't matter. But what did matter here in Michigan a year ago was the two drivers that went to victory lane. We just heard Kevin Harvick picking up a win here in August for the 7th time at that point in the season. His teammate Clint Bowyer also went to victory lane here. That was 1 year ago. We haven't seen these guys in victory lane as an organization in 2019.
No, but Clint Bowyer's gone to the top of the leaderboard here in this opening practice session just like that. Clint Bowyer's fast out there. He knows how to get around Michigan International Speedway. Kevin Harvick, much the same. These are two drivers from Stewart-Haas Racing with their Ford Mustangs that I guess you could say politely they don't like where their season is right now. They both have expected to get to victory lane multiple times by now. And Pete Pistone, Kevin Harvick is a driver especially who feels like at this point of where he was last year with 5 wins already under his belt, coming to MIS looking for win number 6 last year. Who would have thought Kevin Harvick would come to MIS here in June looking for win number 1 of this current season?
Well, certainly not Kevin Harvick, Alex, and he just pulled his car into his garage area. It has been a frustrating first 14 races of the season, and some people will hear that and they'll find that to be odd when you look at the top 10 and top 5 finishes that this team has, because there are plenty of those. But what they don't have is a win, and the car is now in the garage area. Crew Chief Rodney Childers had a chance to talk with him earlier this week. And one of the things that they're struggling with this new rules package here, you mentioned it at the open of our show, balance. The front splitter of this race car is something they're having a tough time figuring out to give Kevin what he likes behind the wheel and the feel behind the wheel. Now, there's also been a couple of things that have happened to Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers the last few weeks, sort of out of their control. Pit road issues, an uncontrolled tire penalty took them out of a chance to win a couple of weeks ago. He got something on the front of the nose of the car when we were at Kansas Speedway on Mother's Day Saturday night. That took him out of contention to win a race. So getting this car to the front hasn't been the problem. Getting this car to the next level and getting to victory lane is the challenge, and they feel pretty good about what they've got here. Again, Kevin kind of downloading some information to the team here in the garage area, the Busch Light Ford Mustang up on jacks, and they're going to go back out there, and they're hoping to see if they can get some run with some other cars. And if it doesn't happen in this session, guys, it'll happen in the second session, and one of those cars will probably be at least 1, 2, or 3 of his Stewart-Haas Racing teammates.
Indeed, Pete, thank you. Right now, Harvick is 21 on the leaderboard. His teammate Clint Bowyer is number 1, like Alex pointed out, 187.749 miles an hour. That is quickest of the 33 cars that have been on the racetrack. Here's something interesting, Alex. Stewart-Haas Racing has completed 10 full seasons. They're now working into their 11th. They have won in every single year they have been in operation, 51 times in all. If you do the math, that is 5.1 wins per season. We're 14 races in without a victory. How urgent is it right now inside that camp for any of their drivers to get to victory lane?
It's very urgent because they have the equipment, the ability, and the talent from top to bottom in that race shop, including their drivers, to win multiple races. That being said, that's also part of the calming effect that I think Stewart-Haas Racing has. They know they're good enough to win. They also know that racing at this level is extremely difficult. And if you're off by an eyelash in this garage area, that equals a good distance out on the racetrack. So with Clint Bowyer currently the fastest on the racetrack, as you see Bowyer on the screen there, Daniel Suarez from Stewart-Haas Racing is second fastest. Somewhere between those two and Harvick back in 22nd, you'll find Eric Almirola in 17th. So right now you got 2 cars, obviously, to start the weekend off are very good. 2 that are mediocre at best.
Why don't we talk about the one that is the best right now, and that is Clint Bowyer. And Kim, come in on this conversation of the urgency that this entire organization, and then break it down by driver, the importance of getting back to victory lane.
Absolutely, and Pete hit it on the nose with this team has had speed. They've had speed. We've seen the top 10s. We've seen the top 5s. They just have not been able to close it and get to victory lane. So there is some sense of concern, yes, because we are, a third of the way into the season, and we've not seen an SHR car in victory lane. Clint Bowyer, one of those drivers, but they're also not struggling. They're not trying to struggle to tread water because they do have the speed. So maybe that actually causes more of a problem, knowing that they have the speed, but what can they do to get to victory lane? And I had the opportunity to talk with Clint earlier in the day. You'll hear the one-on-one conversation Sunday as part of our NASCAR Live pre-race show, and I didn't get the sense that Clint Bowyer is frustrated. Right now he has more confidence than he's ever had as a driver, and some of that is a hangover from last year, the season we saw him have, the multiple wins that he and his team got, and they still have had speed. You look at the last 10 races for Clint Bowyer and this team, and only 3 of the 10 races they were outside of the top 10, and a lot of those top 10s were actually top 5. So a lot of speed out of this camp. They just need to do what it takes to get to victory lane. Now, what is that? They're still not quite sure. Clint Bowyer right now, P1 on the speed charts, but he is out front. He hasn't done any work in traffic. We'll see what that car can do, what kind of balance changes they make, knowing that they were out front for this entire first run of the first practice. Another thing we need to keep in mind for Clint Bowyer, Michigan, yes, he can get around Michigan, but it hasn't always been a track that's treated him well. His finishes are kind of all over the board, with the exception of that win here last June. But remember, that was a play call. That was a gamble by crew chief Mike Bugaravich. Remember, we had rain threatening the area. His teammate Kevin Harvick was up front too. They decided to roll the dice, take only 2 tires. And I am telling you, the story about Clint reliving that moment was so priceless. I hope you guys get to hear it on Sunday, because he said he was as nervous as he's ever been in his life. That obviously paid off for this team. So we'll see where they are at the end of this practice. Right now, though, they're P1.
You were watching his teammate, Daniel Suarez, a moment ago on NASCAR.com's video feed. As Kim was pointing out, Clint Bowyer has not been out in any traffic, but Daniel Suarez has been. He's been out there riding behind Ricky Stenhouse Jr., working around behind the car, trying to figure out where there's good air, where there's bad air, what Suarez's car is going to do out there in a draft. Suarez currently second in single-lap speeds. He's run 11 total laps here to start this practice session off. The most laps, by the way, today so far is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's put 14 laps on the board.
Right now, Clint Bowyer, Daniel Suarez, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch. That is your top 5, quickest in the first of 2 practice sessions. Then the top 10, rest of them, Alex Bowman, 6 quick, Ryan Newman, Kyle Larson, Paul Menard, and Chris Buescher complete the top 10.
From Michigan International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
2019 is the Motor Racing Network's 50th year, and things are about to get a lot louder. I'm Woody Kane. The NASCAR season is revving its engine, and MRN's 2 biggest loudspeakers are back when race spotter Joey Meyer and I bring you the latest news, results, and headlines every Monday on MRN Out Loud. Crank it up Mondays on MRN.com, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are heard.
Check out MRN.com for a new podcast series called The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. 25 years and still trucking. We'll take you back to some great races.
Benson to the bottom of the racetrack. This is the race for the lead and the win at Michigan.
And some wild moments.
One truck is in the air. Matt Crafton upside down.
And we'll let you hear the stories behind them.
He was too bullheaded to let me pass him, and I was too bullheaded to let him have it.
Download the show for free on iTunes and at MRN.com. From Michigan International Speedway, this is Cup Series practice. Now, back to Jeff Striegel and Alex Hayden.
We're in Michigan, where Clint Bowyer continues to sit atop the leaderboard with the fastest single-lap speed. Daniel Suarez second, Martin Truex Jr. third, Chase Elliott fourth, and Kurt Busch is in position number 5. It's been an interesting opening to this practice session, Jeff, because we saw 30 cars of the 36 entered come out of the garage and on the pit road before the track opened for practice. Currently, 35 of the 36 drivers have taken a lap here. A little bit of a hodgepodge, if you will, a little potpourri of different agendas going on. Some cars have been working together, trying to see what their cars are going to be like in traffic, while others have been simply running by themselves, like Kyle Busch is doing right now.
You know, one of the things I'm looking at, Clint Bowyer right now, quickest at 187. Eric Jones right now is 21st. At 185. There's a 2-mile-an-hour difference only, I think, between 1 all the way back to 21st. And when you look at some of the other first through 10, 187 for Clint Bowyer. Right now, Chris Buescher is 10th at 186.5. Not seeing those blistering speeds like we talked about before, but what we have been seeing only briefly, though, on the racetrack has looked pretty good. Right now, there's only a handful of cars that are out there, and they are separated, nobody running together. You get a look at Brad Keselowski out the front windshield, that roof-mounted camera working down the back straightaway here at Michigan. Real quickly on Brad, then we're going to talk about Daniel Suarez and Martin Truex Jr. How big would it be? You've talked to Brad many, many times. How big would it be if he could finally put a check mark in the I want to win at Michigan category?
Because he is from the state of Michigan. There's never been a Michigan-born driver win here at Michigan International Speedway. So it would be huge because Brad is a very proud Michigander. Is that how you say it up here?
Indeed.
You're one.
I am one.
A
Michigander.
He's a very proud Michigander, and rightly so, just as you are. To be able to win in your home state, literally, an hour and a half from his hometown as far as drive goes, this would be huge. Everybody wants to win at the track where they kind of grew up going to. So, yeah, I would say it would be a one for the ages for Brad should he be able to get to victory lane.
Rochester Hills, Michigan for Brad Keselowski. The other Michigan driver in the field this weekend from Byron, Michigan, which is just outside of Lansing, Michigan, is Eric Jones. All right, here's a question for you. I'm going to give you one driver, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to take a very good one. One of two. You can have Kyle Busch or you can have Martin Truex Jr. to win more races than the other driver. Which one wins more times? Right now, by the way, it's 4-3, as you well know.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch 4, Truex 3. Which one of those two drivers will win more races than the other by the end of the year?
Kyle Busch, and I think he does it by 2. He will be 2 better than Truex, and I think both are going to continue to win races. But I think Kyle is so good at adapting to different racetracks. He's so good at adapting to different situations, and to me, that's what it's been all about here in 2019. Is you have to be able to adapt to the rules package because we've run different packages.
Whether you like them or not.
Yeah. And Kyle's the best at doing that. I think what we're seeing out of both Truex and Kyle Busch, same you can put Jimmie Johnson in there too. And I'm going to get off and climb up on a bit of a high horse here because so many people talk about the greats. And we just saw on the screen a moment ago, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. We saw Bill Elliott sitting in a chair talking to Mike Helton there, vice chairman of NASCAR. You talk about the greats of years gone by in NASCAR, and rightly so. But I think people have taken for granted so much about what's going on, or they said for years, Jimmie Johnson wins too much. Kyle Busch, he wins every week. People get mad about that. We're witnessing, as you see Bill Elliott there on the left and Mike Helton on the right, we're witnessing greatness right now. And I think people are not appreciating what we're seeing. Love him or hate him, Kyle Busch just won his 55th Cup race, tied 9th all time since the start of NASCAR with NASCAR Hall of Famer and the great Rusty Wallace. We're witnessing something that just is something that doesn't happen very often. And it kind of bothers me a little bit that people can't stand it and can't stand the fact that there are just sometimes that people are better than others. And isn't that life, though? Sometimes people are just better at what they do compared to others.
You know, I think what's interesting, and Kim, I want you to weigh in on this. Again, we'll talk about Suarez and Truex in a minute, but I really like the direction. I think all of us with the Motor Racing Network agree 100% with what Alex just took us, that road that he just took us down on. It's called respect. And let me give you just a quick example. How much time have we spent talking about Kyle Busch? How much time have we spent talking about Kyle Larson? Kyle Larson is arguably one of the most talented race car drivers in the garage. He may be one of the most talented race car drivers in the country, if not the world. Give him a steering wheel, and he can drive the wheels off it. Kyle Larson is a 5-time winner at this level. Kyle Busch is a 55-time winner at this level. They're separated by only, 5 years, I think, in age, give or take? And so the point is that I'm trying to make, Kim, is the fact that what Alex just said, rare air when it comes to Kyle Busch, a driver that really doesn't get any respect.
It's extremely rare, and I think it's part of the confidence he has he is rarely shaken, and when he is, it's very brief. Kyle comes to the track confident. He gets in the car confident. He drives his races confident. And to Alex's point, Kyle Busch can really take anything you throw at him in terms of different types of tracks, different types of packages, and ultimately he will figure out how to run them. He will figure out how to win races, and I do agree. I think we are in the presence of greatness, whether or not the industry or fans want to realize it or recognize it. 55 on the win list, tying Rusty Wallace, who is a Hall of Famer. And we've talked to a lot of guys throughout the years, you know, the Jimmie Johnsons. I've had a chance to talk to some of the guys on the IndyCar side, like the Scott Dixons, the guys that are living legends. And I truly believe that Kyle Busch is a living legend, whether or not he is recognized at one. One day we will be voting him into the Hall of Fame, and he is certainly one that we'll need to watch here this weekend.
55-5, and the comparison is only for exactly that, a comparison. I'm certainly not saying that Kyle Larson can't win 55 times before he hangs it up.
It's fact.
But
we're
it's
not making
fact.
it up.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's right here in black and white, 5-55. But you know what? Let's talk the good side on Kyle Larson is the fact that, well, he is a 5-time winner. He won 3 times here at Michigan, and this is the place he got his very first win at. What about first-time winners here? There's a number of drivers very capable, but yet you got to put all the puzzle pieces together. We talk about that every week. What about Daniel Suarez? Is he a driver ready to win at this level, and could it come here on Sunday?
Yes and yes. Suarez is an extremely talented race car driver, and I think for the first time, and we'll bring Pete Pistonian on this too, for the first time I think Daniel Suarez feels like this is his race team. This is his race car, and that comfort level starting to come around more and more. Yeah, he had a solid run at Joe Gibbs Racing, but now that he's gone over to Stewart-Haas Racing, he was handpicked, going over there, and you see him on the screen. The car is jacked up on the left side there as they continue to make changes. Pete, Daniel Suarez is a talented race car driver who I think can flat out get the job done.
Well, you're 100% right. He is right now P3 on the board in this practice session. And you were talking earlier about adapting, Alex, and quite frankly, had a conversation with crew chief Billy Scott, and he used that word a lot. Adapting to his new surroundings is what Daniel Suarez is doing here at Stewart-Haas Racing. He completely feels now that this is his race team, but adapting to this rules package. And I know at this point of the season, a lot of our listeners maybe get tired of talking about that, but the problem is that this is not just a rules package that went into play in the first race of the year and has been the same all the way through. It changes. There's variances to it depending on the track we're at. When you talk about horsepower and aerodynamic modifications, when you're a driver like Daniel Suarez and you're trying to learn on the job a little bit here in his first year with Stewart-Haas Racing, that's added to the challenge. But Billy Scott says they feel like they're now getting their arms around this. And he has run well here before at Michigan during his Joe Gibbs Racing days, but his best finish is 11th. Daniel Suarez and Billy Scott feel like they've got a really good chance here to the point about a new winner of rolling into victory lane. What they're working on during this practice session right now, just some raw speed. When they get over to that second practice session, again, they're hoping to get in the draft with some of their other teammates out there, maybe some other Ford teammates as well, to learn what this car does in the draft, because, guys, that is going to be the key here when they throw the green flag on Sunday. But I expect Daniel Suarez, who had a top 10 finish last week at Pocono, to have at least that and maybe be in victory lane here on Sunday. We'll see.
27-year-old driver from Monterrey, Mexico, talking about Daniel Suarez. He'll be behind the wheel of the number 41. I thought that was him coming out. It happens to be his teammate, Clint Bowyer, but he will be behind the wheel of the number 41. Now he's coming out of the garage, Alex. Almost on cue. It was Clint Bowyer that came out right in front of him. He is 0 for 4 here. All right, that's not bad. He's only been here at this level 4 times prior. Career start number 5 at the Cup level on Sunday. Let's talk about Martin Truex Jr., who you said would not win as many times as Kyle. He's 0 for 26 here. 22 times he's gone to victory lane. Michigan has not been one of those tracks.
No, it hasn't. And Michigan has been a bit of a struggle for Martin Truex Jr., although he's won 3 of 8 stages since we started stage racing here at MIS, but he's finished outside the top 10 both Michigan races here a year ago. So this is kind of one of those hot and cold type of racetracks for Truex. Seems like he's got a good car early and mid stages, but things tend to fall away once you get closer to mile number 400 here at MIS for the Cup car. cars for Martin Truex Jr. You see him on the screen, second in line right now behind Paul Menard, Joey Logano behind him as well. Then you've got Kyle Larson in that draft that's going off into turn 1 right now. But Truex, Kim, is a driver that he knows how to win races. He knows how to do the right things on and off the racetrack, but hit or miss, Truex is a guy you got to keep an eye on.
You always have to keep an eye on him. And actually, they've already got 3 win stickers on their car, so you really have to keep an eye on he and this team and the fact that they're going to continue to steal more wins this season. Now, well, they get more wins than Kyle Busch. I don't know. I'm kind of in your camp, Alex. I think Kyle Busch will be the dominant car, especially out of that JGR camp this season. But Truex, he went out early in this first practice, did a 12-lap run. He was 3rd on the speed chart at that point since he's dropped. They brought it back in. He spent an extensive time on jack stands. They got up under the right rear of the car, made some adjustments. I saw some ride height rulers out. They were measuring the car, and they did some work up under the hood. So some adjustments for Martin Truex Jr. That's kind of been the theme for a lot of these teams down here, trying to get the balance right, because we have described this as similar to a Talladega or Daytona in that we might see pack racing, and it's going to be very different, though, because this track much flatter. So the teams, the chatter down here is that, yes, we could get that pack racing come Sunday. We could get those big runs from the pack, but balance is going to be a lot more important because this track is so much flatter than a place like Talladega, where you also get pack racing. So this team took their time. He spent about, I would say, at least 10 minutes on the jack stand to get that adjustment right on the car to find the balance he needed. Right now, currently 8th on the speed chart. And again, Michigan, not a place that's been too kind to Martin Truex Jr. He's finished runner-up 3 times. He hasn't gotten to victory lane yet. But if you look at the what word do I want to use? Kind of where this team is headed based on where they've been the last 7 races. They have bounced between a not-so-great finish and first. For the last 7 races, it's been win, not a great finish, win, not a great finish, win, not a great finish. Well, last weekend in Pocono, they had a 35th place finish. And by the way the sequence is going, it seems like this weekend, maybe they're in for a win.
Well, I think you could be right, because your point, 17th, won. 20th, won. 19th, won. 35th a week ago. That means who's going to win here on Sunday? Alex Hayden.
Not Martin Truex Jr. No, if you believe in numerology and the way patterns and trends are, then yeah, Truex is. But, I don't know. I'm just not feeling Truex this weekend personally, but it wouldn't at all surprise me if he does win the race.
All right, she was talking about pack racing, and Alex Hayden, we are seeing it working off turn number 2 and down the back straightaway here at Michigan.
Yeah, and you see on the screen that bright red Menards and Wrangler jeans Ford Mustang. That's Ryan Blaney. He's got Bowyer behind him. By the way, that pack racing. Oh, you see Blaney gets way up the racetrack. Car breaks loose on him. Blaney's got to try to get out of it, find an opening, and oh, that's what you call a moment here at MIS.
And with that, he will take that Menards Ford Mustang straight back to the garage. By the way, in the draft, much, much quicker than when they're out there by themselves. All right, you probably already knew that when they run in the draft, they'd go quicker. We are seeing that play out here as we go back and take a look at Ryan Blaney. Watch this. Right up behind him comes Clint Bowyer, takes the air off the spoiler, up the racetrack, and a great save by Ryan Blaney, or he throws that race car away and goes to a backup. First practice of 2. We'll give you the schedule for the weekend and talk about 2 drivers that must go to victory lane sooner or later. One of them, Jimmie Johnson. More coming up in a moment from Michigan International Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away 1 set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
From Michigan International Speedway, this is Cup Series practice.
Jimmie Johnson is midway up the back straightaway. Here he comes now to the entrance of turn number 3. Finally trying to get to Gatorade Victory Lane at Michigan International Speedway, and he's well on his way as he makes his way to the checkered flag.
On Father's Day 2014, the Michigan curse ends for Jimmie Johnson as he will win the Quicken Loans 400, and it gives Hendrick Motorsports 5 wins in a row here in the 2014 season.
Now, back to Jeff Striegel and Alex Hayden.
That is how it sounded back in 2014. Mike Bagley off turn number 3, bringing that call to the feet of Joe Moore, and Jimmie Johnson going to victory lane on that day. We'll talk about Jimmie here in just a few moments. A driver that not only wants to go to victory lane, has to, needs to. They're getting better. Maybe still for some a long way to go before that actually happens. But we'll break it down for you. By the way, we are in the middle of one of 2 practice sessions that we have for you here on this Friday afternoon. Once we throw the checkered flag or the red and black flags, and that will come in Brian Nelson, about 20 minutes, give or take? 20 minutes. We will take a 1-hour break and come back and be with you at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Happy hour practice, and that will lead into a doubleheader tomorrow. Pole qualifying right here on the Motor Racing Network coming your way at noon Eastern, and that will be followed by the LTI Printing 250 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. By the way, the LTI Printing 250, the cars run the racetrack, and Alex Hayden, Steve Post are up here bringing you the live coverage of that. A busy weekend indeed. All leading up to the Firekeepers Casino right here on the Motor Racing Network. Airtime on Sunday, 1 o'clock.
Look forward to that. A moment ago in the draft, we were talking and describing the action when Ryan Blaney had a big moment open turns 3 and 4. Kim, I see you've been hanging around down around the Blaney car. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, the Blaney car on jack stands right now. The team kind of doing an all-around check on that to make sure everything's A-okay, but he did save it. It was a brilliant save. He had to use the brakes pretty hard because I got to tell you, there is brake dust all over the rear bumper of this car. They're going to have to wipe that down. It's so dirty. But overall, the car, okay. Blaney's still on board the car. He had crew chief Jeremy Bullins come over. They kind of discussed off-air what had happened there. This car maybe needs a little bit better stability in the pack. We saw just how easily the air was pulled off of Ryan Blaney and how quickly he got loose. So that's something all these teams are going to pay attention to down here. We were talking earlier in the broadcast specifically about Stewart-Haas Racing and how they have had such fast cars but hadn't gotten to victory lane. Ryan Blaney, a Team Penske driver, but I would kind of lump him into that category of drivers who have been so fast but just have not been able to get to victory lane for whatever reason. They haven't had the finishes to justify how fast they've been on the race car. Blaney, in fact, has led the most laps in 2019 without a win. That's 359 laps, well above the number of laps led by Kevin Harvick. Ryan Blaney, typically pretty good here when we come to Michigan. So an early scare in this first practice for Ryan Blaney and this team, but I expect them to be fast come Sunday.
You know, in order to go to victory lane, you've got to first beat your teammates, and that's something that Alex and I have talked about throughout the 2019 season. When you take a look at Ryan Blaney and his teammates, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, of those 3, Logano has won, meaning better than his teammates, 9 times. Brad has done it 4 times, beating his teammates. Ryan Blaney, you see on the screen there, only once. Up and down season. Very inconsistent. They're fast one weekend, and then they'll make a mistake. They might just not be that good on a given weekend. Looking for consistency, and obviously they are looking to have a big day here on Sunday and maybe join his teammates in going to victory lane. All right, let's talk a little bit about Jimmie Johnson, shall we? Alex Hayden, we talk about a driver that is struggling mightily. He is not running very well, although he is in the draft now. Maybe the speeds will pick up. We talk about the left side and the right side of our scoring monitor. On the left side, that's where you want to be. You're 1 through 20. On the right side of our scoring monitor, 21 on back. And there are two big names in particular that are showing up on the wrong side of that leaderboard.
One of them is Kevin Harvick, as you see on your screen, is in that draft. I thought he was about to put down a big number and go to the left side of the leaderboard because he ran down those 3 cars in front of him from about 5 car lengths, which means he's got huge speed. But Kevin Harvick is only 22nd on the board, and he's been in that draft for a good 6 or so laps. The other is Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie currently 27th in single lap speed. Jimmie has been by himself on the track up until here in the last 2 laps, and he's joined that draft working around the racetrack. So Harvick 22nd, Johnson 27th, and when you think about Jimmie Johnson, if you include Watkins Glen, Daytona, Talladega, Watkins Glen are his worst average finishes by racetrack, and they average from 17th to 18th place finishes. Well, at 17th, 16.8 to be exact, Michigan is 4th worst for Jimmie Johnson. And that's, to me, just a bit mind-boggling because MIS is known as a driver's racetrack. You got to have the ability to go from the bottom to the top. Anywhere a driver chooses to go, it's up to them here at MIS. Year after year after year, doesn't matter what kind of race car we're driving. And to me, to see Jimmie Johnson, statistically, this be his 4th worst racetrack by 1 position, to me, that's a bit head-scratching, but, hey, it's fact.
And I was just going to say, that is a stat. That is, you know what, let me add one more, Pete, and you weigh in on this. You just heard the stats that Alex laid down. I'll give you one more. 83 times he's gone to victory lane, talking about the 7-time champ. Only once has he gone to victory lane here.
Well, and when we heard that rejoin, too, we had to go into the MRN archives because that's how long ago it was that Jimmie Johnson won in 2014. Alex gave you the stats. This has never been one of his better racetracks. And you start to wonder, and this is going to sound odd to say this about a guy with all the accomplishments of Jimmie Johnson, it's a little bit of a mental game when he comes to Michigan International Speedway. They know, and Jimmie has known, that this has not been one of the places where he's been able to succeed and to excel. So now you're in the midst of a drought where Jimmie Johnson has gone 73 races since his last win, Dover 2 years ago. And you come here, and quite frankly, they are a bit concerned about the speed that they've got right now, which is not a lot, to try to make up some of that ground. So we know that this year has been better. We've seen Hendrick Motorsports make those incremental gains. We know Chase Elliott is leading the charge there at Hendrick Motorsports. We know Jimmie Johnson's getting those top 10 finishes, but really, guys, when you think about it, a lot of this conversation is a little bit of the same conversation we had about Kevin Harvick in that, yeah, top 10s are fine for Jimmie Johnson now, but at this point, they're trying to find a way to get to those top 5s and try to get this car back in victory lane. So right now, they're trying to find some speed here. They are now in the draft. Again, another one of these teams, when they come back in between practice sessions, they're going to make a couple of adjustments and go back out there for happy hour to see if the draft will give them some more miles per hour that they're going to need if they're going to be able to contend for a win here in the Irish Hills of Michigan.
As you were talking, guess what? He jumped over to the left side of the leaderboard. He did it in a pretty big way, too. He jumped all the way to 12th quick, talking about Jimmie Johnson. We need to go to break. Why don't we do this? Alex, I'm putting the spotlight on you. Does Jimmie Johnson go to victory lane in 2019? Yes, no, and why?
Yes, because he's Jimmie Johnson, and I don't need to say any more. Jimmie's just that good. He's a 7-time champion. He's one of the best to ever strap into a NASCAR race car. I think Jimmie has not forgotten how to drive. He has not forgotten how to win. That team is continuing to get better around him. They've had speed over the last few races, too. I think Jimmie Johnson, yes, definitely goes to victory lane. Jimmie currently has jumped up to position number 12 on the leaderboard. Suarez, Bowyer, Logano, Larson, and Austin Dillon are the Fast Five here in the opening practice. From Michigan International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
MRN's Classic Races.
Labonte gets crossed up. Labonte goes around. Dale Earnhardt now watches Labonte spun across the line and got the win.
Spanning 50 years of NASCAR racing.
Army Hall. There's a beautiful afternoon here in Daytona Beach, and the action will be fast and furious.
Legendary voices, legendary races.
Darryl, simply, what happened?
I just hope he chokes on that 200,000. That's all I can tell him.
MRN's Classic Races, available on MRN.com, iTunes, and your favorite podcast provider.
He did touch.
No, he knocked the hell out of me.
NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com and Motor Racing Network's Facebook. Join me, Kyle Rickey, and Hannah Newhouse as we talk with the next generation of NASCAR stars and established local and regional racers each Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time. Or subscribe, download, and listen on your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast. Grassroots NASCAR racing from the Motor Racing Network.
From Michigan International Speedway, this is Cup Series practice.
Goodbye, Kyle Larson. What an afternoon for the youngster. After finishing second in the Knoxville Nationals last night, he's gone. Kyle Larson comes from behind off turn number 2 for the final time.
Brings that red and white Target Chevrolet up the back straightaway for the final time, and at the front of the field for Kyle Larson. 3 car lengths in hand over Martin Truex Jr.
Call him the king of Michigan International Speedway. This will be 3 in a row for Kyle Larson, and it all came from a restart. He crosses the line and wins the Pure Michigan 400.
Now, back to Jeff Striegel and Alex Hayden.
That's how it sounded 2017 in what we call the fall race here at MIS. The second race, as they're separated by only 7 weeks here on the schedule. Kyle Larson, 5 times a winner at the Cup level. 3 of the 5 wins have come here at Michigan International. The other 2 to the sister track, the 2-mile D-shaped oval at Auto Club Speedway of Southern California.
What are they missing right now if they're going to go to victory lane? We've talked about it, I think. I mean, I guess we started really talking about it when we got to Phoenix. We went to Daytona. There were mistakes there. We went to Atlanta. There were mistakes there. We went to Phoenix, and some of you may remember the qualifying debacle that was Phoenix International or ISM Raceway. Kyle Larson got hung out, never got a lap in, didn't get a pit stall that he wanted. Where are they at right now? Are we improving? If we're that team looking in the mirror, are we saying that we are making great strides week in and week out, or are we about the same as we've been all year long? Where are we at?
I think they are about the same they've been all year long. Now, I'll add to that in the fact that I think this race team, what they need right now is they need the great football coach Lou Holtz to sit them all down in a room by themselves and give them that speech. That's what this team needs, because the errors they're making are on themselves. They're shooting themselves in their pinky toes. They are the ones that are committing the problems down there on pit road. They are the ones like Kyle Larson who overdrives it late in the race at Pocono last week and put it in the fence. They've got speed in the race car. They can get the job done. They just need to settle down and regroup, and they need Coach Holtz to come in and give him that speech.
Sounds like they could just use you to come in.
I can do it.
I know you can. Kim, last time they went to victory lane, and this is shocking, September of 2017.
Yes, it's been a very, very long time since they won a points-paying race. Remember, Kyle Larson and his team did win the All-Star race a couple of weeks ago, but that's a non-points-paying race. The setup is totally different on their cars. Obviously, a much shorter race. Now, that did give them a little bump in spirit and enthusiasm, maybe a little bump in confidence. But when they got back to the racetrack the next weekend at Charlotte, man, a 33rd place finish. Then last weekend at Pocono, a 26th place finish. So winning that All-Star race, while it was nice, they cashed in that $1 million check. Not quite what they needed in terms of getting the momentum to get them back to their winning ways. Because Kyle Larson, we've seen him in victory lane. In fact, we've seen him in victory lane here in Michigan 3 times before. If there's any driver who knows how to win at this track, It's Kyle Larson. He and his team just need to get out of their own way. And you have to imagine they're feeling the pressure. They race for Chip Ganassi, and his motto is, I like winners. Well, this team, to your point, Jeff, has not won a points-paying race since September of 2017. So they're definitely feeling the heat down their backs, on top of the fact that they got a new teammate in Kurt Busch this season. And while we haven't necessarily seen Kurt in victory lane, he certainly has had speed. In fact, he's outperformed this team for a number of the races. So right now the team are perched, looking at the TV screen, watching what their driver is doing. Kyle had just left the garage after some minor adjustments they made on the car, showing a little bit of speed, but certainly not where the team wants to be or needs to be if they hope to get to victory lane on Sunday.
26-year-old driver out of Elk Grove, California. 10 times he's been to Michigan in his career at this level, and 3 times he came away holding the trophy. Now, while Kim was doing that, Alex Hayden stood on his chair and gave his Lou Holtz to our producer, Brian Nelson, and then proceeded to say that this is home to Domers?
This is Domer country.
No, it's not.
Pete, back me up.
No, it's not.
South Central Michigan is Notre Dame territory, is it not, Pete?
Well, I would say that, but I'd have a couple of Spartans and Wolverines beat the snot out of me down here, so I don't know about that.
But Pete, I mean, let's bring Pete in on this, because Pete.
No, bring me in on this.
I know what you're part of. Pete, you follow college athletics and professional athletics across the board, not just racing. How important is it to have that type of coach, that type of motivator, to have that locker room speech to turn something around? Think about a football. I use Lou Holtz as the example. You're down by 2 touchdowns at the halftime break when you know you shouldn't be. You've dropped passes. You've missed blocking assignments. Pete, how important is it to have that one person stand up and say, come on, let's go?
Well, I think it's very important. And in the case of the 42 team, that could be the driver. That could be, the crew chief, Chad Johnston. But, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When you continue to not have, as we would say in the football world, a situational awareness of when you've got to perform, when you have to perform at the top part of the game, and in this case the race, and it keeps shooting yourself in the foot, you got to figure out a way to minimize that. I mean, there's no doubt, again, to the point, Kyle Larson can drive a race car. There's no point to saying that car doesn't have speed. As Kim said, look what Kurt Busch is doing with the one car there. So at some point, they've got to figure out a way to make this a little bit more of the mental game right now in the positive direction than it is right now. The talent's there, the equipment's there. They just got to figure out a way to get it all together. And, well, you know what? Let's go over there when we're done, Alex, and we'll ask them if they can win one for the Gipper. Maybe that one will work for them.
No, you know what? Pete, why don't you win one for the guy that you spoke to earlier this week that wears a lot of green and white? Who was that again?
That would be coach of the Michigan State Spartans, Mr. Mike D'Antonio, perhaps. Is that who you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Well, we can bring him over at some time. Maybe Jim Harbaugh, Mark Bink. Maybe you can bring Jim Harbaugh in as well. Let's just bring all the Big Ten coaches here, Jeff, and just try to nail it home for you
I
today.
think we could do that. And, oh, by the way, Pete, listen to this one. Just a moment ago, Alex Hayden received a text. Somebody listening to us, that in itself is amazing. And
wait a minute, somebody's listening to us, or they texted me?
Well, could be either. But and what was the comment that was made that came in on the text of Alex Hayden's phone? This is, what did it say?
Spartan country.
And don't forget it.
I thought this was Chippewa country, but it's Central Michigan.
We'll give you that a little. That's fine.
Pete?
I got a feeling I know who that text was from, by the way, Alex, now that I think about it.
Hey, Pete, give us your best Lou Holtz impersonation right now.
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to get my mic sock all wet.
All right, we are wrapping up practice session number 1. Make sure that you come back with us at 4 o'clock today, Eastern Time. Happy hour practice. I'll tell you something, up there coming off 4, coming right back at you, Alex Hayden. I like what I see.
That's a big gaggle of race cars, Jeff, here in the closing minutes of practice. Joey Logano, third in line, peels out. He'll go up underneath that red, white, and blue Ford Mustang of Ryan Newman, trying to climb the leaderboard. Logano does. He'll jump to 4th in the draft. Denny Hamlin is leading this draft, but boy, it is impressive to watch these drivers make these bold maneuvers out there. And, we'll kind of go back and circle up. You mentioned at the top of the broadcast the track record over 200 miles an hour. That is great. That is fantastic. That's a magical number. But when you're running those speeds here at MIS, you're on that ragged edge. You don't want any other race cars around you because the slightest different airflow over the car can change you and put you in the fence. Here we are running laps at 188 miles an hour, only 12 miles an hour slower, but these drivers are making breathtaking moves out here, and it's just practice.
All right, let me ask you this. Where is, I believe the lead car is either Hamlin or Keselowski. It's Hamlin in front of Logano. Did you see where he was running on the racetrack going through 1 and 2?
Very bottom.
That we have not seen here since we repaved this racetrack. It doesn't happen. Now Denny running a little bit further up, middle of the racetrack. Third back is Brad Keselowski. He's running on the bottom of the racetrack. When we see things like this on Friday, that usually means good things come Sunday.
It's going to be a spectacular race based off of everything that we've been hearing last week and in the garage this morning wandering around. A lot of the crew chiefs were super excited about what we're going to see in the race come Sunday in the Firekeepers Casino 400 for these Cup cars. You know, I mentioned a moment ago, Ryan Newman out there mixing it up in this draft. Newman on the racetrack is on the left side of the leaderboard, which is good, albeit in the 18th position. Newman having a nice practice. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is having a nice part of the season. He's currently 10th on the leaderboard. And Pete, Roush Fenway Racing seems to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah, they are. I had a chance to talk to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. earlier this week. He was in Chicago getting out the word for the triple header we're going to have for NASCAR at Chicagoland Speedway. And they are making those gains. You know, Ryan Newman joined this race team, and he has made a big difference, I believe, and Ricky gave him complete kudos for adding some expertise to this race team. Now, again, this is a team that seems to make those steps forward, and they have issues, and Ricky's had some issues in the last couple of weeks as well. But trying to find that speed, sort of the reoccurring theme here in this practice that we're talking about here today, is what they're trying to do. But, you know, everybody knows, right? This was Roush Fenway Racing's stomping grounds back in the day. 23 national NASCAR series wins here for Jack Roush. They would love to get one of these cars to victory lane here on Sunday, either Ricky Stenhouse Jr. or Ryan Newman, and, you know, they feel pretty good about the direction that they're heading.
A writer for the Motor Racing Network and all-around good guy makes his home just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Pete Pistone, he has been downstairs with Orlando, Florida's Kim Kuhn. They are done because we are done with practice session number 1, off 4, and coming back to the line, the red and black flags are in the air. You'll see Brad come by, and right behind him comes Austin Dillon. Practice session number 1 is wrapped up.
All you Michigan State people stick together. My phone's lighting up again. Nicole Clark is just texting me, go green. So
you know what that means, don't you?
Yeah, go white, Nicole. I get it. Go green, go white. I get it.
Or go home.
No, well, or go to Ann Arbor.
Wow. By the way, for those of you listening in, Alex Hayden is a Duke fan. That's hard for me to say. Suarez, number 1 here in practice at 188.882 miles an hour. His teammate, Clint Bowyer, second quick. Austin Dillon, third. Logano, fourth. And Kyle Larson, fifth quick. Sixth, Eric Jones, the home state boy, sixth quick. And his home state teammate, Brad Keselowski, seventh quick. Kurt Busch, eighth. Ninth to Paul Menard. 10th to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And if we can get Alex off his phone, you're getting lit up by Spartans all over.
I am. I'm wondering why
together.
nobody is a Wolverine. I'm beginning to get a little complex for the Michigan fans, but my phone's lighting up with these Michigan State people. They're texting me nonstop here. But anyway,
it's crazy.
The rest of the rundown, Kyle Busch 11th after 26 laps in practice. Daniel Hemrick is 12th. Martin Truex Jr. 13th. Eric Almirola 14th. Ryan Blaney 15th. Jimmie Johnson ended up 16th. Chase Elliott 17th. Alex Bowman 18th. Ryan Newman 19th, and 20th, Chris Buescher.
21st, Denny Hamlin. 22nd, Ryan Preece. Kevin Harvick, 23rd. William Byron, 24th. Matt DiBenno, 25th. Bubba Wallace, 26th. Ty Dillon, 27th. David Reagan, 28th. Matt Tifft, 29th. And Michael McDowell was 30th.
Corey LaJoie ended practice 1 in 31st. Kyle Weatherman 32nd. Landon Castle was 33rd. Garrett Smithley was 34th. Quinn Half was 35th. And Josh Balicki 36th.
What else you got? You got more?
They're lighting me up. And these are people, I don't even know who these numbers are. I've been showing your beautiful wife, Julie, up here. These are numbers they're not in my phone, but by golly, they have my phone number. That's scary in its own
right. You might
right.
want to check that tweet that I sent out just a little while ago with your phone number on it. That is going to wrap it up, but only for now. We will take about a 1 hour break. Actually, it'll be about 1 hour and 2 minutes. We're back with you at 4 o'clock Eastern. Happy hour on a Friday at Michigan. That means a party, and we'll have it covered for you live right here on the Motor Racing Network. So long for now. Kim Kuhn, Pete Pistone, Alex Hayden. My name is Jeff Striegel. We're taking a break. We'll see you next at 4 o'clock right here on the Motor Racing Network.
Motor Racing Network's coverage of NASCAR practice has come to you from Michigan International Speedway. Sponsored by Firekeepers Casino. It's time to get your Vegas on at Firekeepers Casino Hotel. And by LTI Printing, your print solution provider. Visit LTIprinting.com. Today's broadcast has come to you under an exclusive radio license granted to the Motor Racing Network by Michigan International Speedway, solely for the private non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any use of the description and accounts of this event without the express written permission of the Motor Racing Network is prohibited. Follow NASCAR every day at MRN.com and on Twitter at MRN Radio. This broadcast has been a production of the Motor Racing Network.